This podcast is part of the Zeo to Hero Podcast Network.
AvenuePodcast.net.
Hello, all my beautiful people. It's time once again for another exciting episode of If You Give a Data podcast. And I would like to say thank you to everyone here listening today. Whether this be your first time listening or if you're a long-term listener, I really appreciate each and every one of you being here and listening to this show today. This one's going to be really cool. He is a guy that I actually found through mutual friends on Facebook. And it was kind of unique because it wasn't the friends that you would think that I had in common with him. I actually found him through some of my wrestling friends in the Texas area. But I am talking about Josh Martin, and some of you might know that name. He is actually the voice actor for Majin Buu in Dragon Ball Z. He's also done some stuff with Fire Force and all kinds of other Funimation shows. He was also the guy in the suit for Barney on the live events and stuff. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to get into all kinds of different subjects. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. And for those of you who are here just to listen to the Josh Martin episode, welcome. I hope you enjoy what you hear, and I hope that you stick around and listen to some of the other great episodes I have here as well. So, if you guys are as excited as I am, then let's get this show on the road.
If You Give a Data podcast.
You're bloody welcome!
You know.
Hey, Dad.
If I get my hand stuck in a pickle jar, I'm straight up bull in a china shop, just swinging around.
Started writing songs when I was about 12 or so.
Seriously?
They're retrofitting me now, and
I'm like, yes, finally.
I've also had the opportunity to go train with Hoist Gracie and Dan Severin.
Wow.
I like that. That's different. It stands out.
That day I took my very first bump and it was fun.
There's only one section to go to first.
Yeah.
Toys.
Bro.
I was like, no, man, surely this guy's not booked out that long.
I haven't laughed that hard since I was a little girl.
What?
Man, this guy won't shut up.
And just a reminder before we get started here, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to iGadap wherever it is you're listening to. Hit that notification bell so you are notified when a new episode drops. Also, make sure that you go out there and rate and review this episode. Tell me what you think of it. And the more people that do that, the more likely I am to be recommended to somebody else. Now, on to the show. All right, everybody. This one is going to be a really cool episode, I think. I am talking with a man who has been known as a voiceover talent. He has done some stuff in Texas wrestling, and he is known as, for a little while, he was the voice of Barney the dinosaur. He's also really well known for being Majin Buu from the Dragon Ball Z series. He's been in a bunch of other things like Fire Force, Dr. Stone, Black Clover, Full Metal Alchemist. He's done all kinds of stuff. But I'm talking about Josh Martin. Man, how are you doing tonight?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to get to do this. As we were talking before, you know, I kind of found you through some mutual people and everything. You've been doing a little bit of stuff in wrestling, it looks like.
I have been. I've been a fan since I was probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
And it just has continued over time and through interest and doing conventions randomly enough. I have found my way into the wrestling business. Wow. That I never thought was possible, but here we are.
It's kind of funny awesome. How it finds you too.
Right? Yeah. Well, you know, I never knew how to get into it, you know, and
yeah. When
I was younger and probably in better shape to actually pursue the in-ring stuff. That was when they were still kind of protecting it, you know.
Yeah.
And you had to know somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody, and then even then, you know. Anyway, so yeah, it never crossed my path until recently, and I'm glad that it did.
That's cool.
I'm taking advantage of it. Yeah.
Well, my introduction to like the independent wrestling scene is actually
Uh-huh.
pretty recent as well. It
Okay.
was right after I started this podcast is whenever I found like a local independent show that I went to, and it just kind of
Very cool.
blossomed from there, and it's cool to be
Yes.
able to be a part of that world, because like you, I've been a wrestling fan, most of my life. And so it's
Uh-huh.
very cool to be on the other side of that and see, behind the scenes and talking to the guys and stuff like that.
I am enjoying the process. It's a process that I've studied as a fan,
Yeah.
and through interviews of the guys who share some little tidbits, but it is like you say, it's extra enjoyable to learn some of the ins and outs
Right.
of how things get put together and that sort of thing. Respectfully, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah, I'm having a great time.
awesome. Yeah. It's definitely a lot of work, and you don't really appreciate that until you do see the other side of it.
Yeah, I don't know how you really could. You'd have to be in it, and I can, since I have been, I appreciate even more than I did before the 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 training and all the
Yeah.
times that these guys spend on the road and making $5 a night, sharing cars and hotels,
Yep. Hot dog and a
all that
handshake.
stuff. Right, right, yeah. So, yeah, it's a cool thing to be a part of.
Right. So did you have a favorite wrestler growing up?
Oh, when I first got into it, and I was watching in Monroe, Louisiana, with my papa,
Okay.
and so the first person that I noticed was probably Ric Flair,
Uh-huh.
and then of course the Road Warriors,
Right.
Dusty Rhodes,
Yep.
that sort of thing. But it was regional back then, so
Yeah.
unless you were in New York, you didn't get the New York
Right.
wrestling, or you didn't get Houston wrestling, or you
Mhm.
know. So that's what I had, and there wasn't much Monroe wrestling. It was, it was affiliate. It was still affiliated. So
Right. Right.
um, then World Class Championship Wrestling,
Hmm.
that blew up.
Right.
The Von Erichs, love them. Um, and then WWF, Hulk Hogan, the Macho Man, of course. I like guys like George the Animal
Oh yeah.
Steel, the Great Kabuki, the
Uh-huh.
Missing Link, uh, guys that could that could be a good villain without saying anything. You
Right.
know what I mean? Make you
Right.
hate them so bad,
Oh
and
yeah.
then be so happy when they got their butt kicked. It was, just
Yeah.
I like those guys. I
Oh
like
yeah.
the ones that could talk. I love the Ric Flairs, the Dusty Rhodes, the ones that could cut a promo. Um, but I also appreciated, for whatever reason, the guys that could get it done by doing less.
Right. Right. Yeah. So we're kind of going to switch over here. I found something whenever I
Sure.
was doing some research, trying to get some questions
Mm,
and stuff here for you. And there was
okay.
a name that popped up, and I just wanted to ask you about this. And
Sure.
that's the Pillsbury Homeboy.
Oh, yeah. Good
Kind of tell me what
research.
that is.
Good research. So that is a character that I started in a comedy troupe
Uh-huh.
back in 1995 when I was
Okay.
going to acting school. And, we were trying to find acting work, but no
Hmm.
one would hire us because we'd never worked before.
Right.
So, yeah, we couldn't get agents to find work because we'd never worked. And so we wound up being more like a band, where we made our own work.
Okay.
We quote unquote wrote our own songs. We were a comedy troupe,
Okay.
and we performed improv and sketch and musical parodies, some originals,
Okay.
uh, and we started out back in '95, and we it was a big group at first. I think there was like 20 people.
Oh, wow.
Way too many people for an improv troupe. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the reaction we got most of the time.
Yeah.
But we were just we were trying to build something, and anybody who was interested, let's do it. And that's how many people were interested at the time. And it didn't take long to whittle whittle that down. And through as things do, of course, it made sense that we had to kind of change gears.
Yeah.
Right. I actually went out on the road on Barney at the end after we graduated in '96.
Okay.
And then when I came back, we were another troupe. And
Okay.
we kind of streamlined things. Fewer performers, different some different material, and then I went back out on the road, and then the boys weren't able to hold it together, and when I came back, we got most of the same people together, minus a couple of people, and started the Section 8 comedy.
Okay.
And that's the one that kind of blew up and got us noticed.
Right.
And but yeah, the character in 1995, we were starting the troupe, and people were like, "Who does imitations?" I raised my hand and I was like, "I do Scooby Doo," and everybody else said that they did as well.
Right.
So that was out, and then I told them that I did the Pillsbury Doughboy, and nobody else did it. And so I did it, and everybody thought that it was good. And then one of the guys told me to say something rude
Yeah.
in the voice. And so I did, and everybody laughed and loved it. So from then on, I mean, I knew if I could make a room full of comedians laugh,
Right.
then I was on to something.
Right.
So sure enough, it morphed over time, and I wound up eventually rewriting Snoop Dogg's "What's My Name" as the Pillsbury homeboy. The backstory was he gets jumped on his way home from school one day by a gang of Keebler elves, and of course that triggers him into listening to gangster rap and smoking weed,
right?
Getting into all kind of bad stuff. And so I did. Instead of "nothing says loving like my crescent rolls," it was "nothing says loving like the blunts I be popping." So,
that's great.
I know it's a dad podcast, but kids, dad's got to relate to you somehow, sometimes.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So as a matter of fact, when I was doing that in the comedy troupe with Chris Rager, who you may know as Mr. Satan,
yep,
Mr. Torg, all characters called Mr.
Yep.
No. and Master Roshi, Mike McFarlane. We were all in it together.
Oh, cool.
Mike, we booked those parts in order. Mike booked his first. He found out about it. We had no idea what anime. We didn't even call it anime. We called it Japanimation still.
Okay.
And then Mike was a fan, and he found out that they were dubbing it just up the road from where we live. And he went and auditioned. He got his part as Master Roshi, and he came back to the show one night, comedy show, and told us about it. And Rager was like, "Wait a second, they gave you a part in a cartoon, really?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "They gave you a part, they'll give me a part." And that's kind of Rager's attitude. He's playfully boisterous. And but sure enough, he went and got Mr. Satan. Wow. And then they invited Chris Sabat to our show.
Yeah.
And he saw me do the Pillsbury Homeboy. He saw me do that song, and he came up to me after the show, and he's like, "Hey, I think that voice were from Majin Buu. I want to come to the studio tomorrow."
Wow.
And it's been 24 years, brother.
I wondered if that, if there was a crossover there between the two of those. That's really
That's
cool.
it.
Oh wow, okay.
That was it. Yeah. So then the next day I went in. He
Hmm.
showed me the the art, the
Yeah,
animation.
yeah,
He gave me the backstory, and mind you, I didn't know anything
right.
about Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Wow.
So I had to get the Cliff's Notes version in about 60 seconds,
Uh-huh.
and then I recorded my first line. Now, let's be honest, I wasn't performing Shakespeare here.
Yeah.
But
True. Yeah.
uh, at the end of the day, I didn't know what I was doing, and it took me 3 sessions to be convinced that they were going to keep calling me back and paying me
Yeah.
because it was just giggling and really doing stuff I've been doing for 5 years by that point.
Right. Right.
I could do a whole rap
Oh, wow.
live as the Pillsbury homeboy. So going in there and giggling or having a fight, even if I got to explode and do those big fight scenes,
Yeah.
no problem. We were doing comedy troops and we were doing it for college kids, and we were rock and roll comedy. That was our byline.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Everybody else had the market on the clean comedy, and we would definitely be mostly canceled these days. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. So did the voice came very easy. One of the things I was going to ask you is
Yeah.
was it difficult to do that? But I guess not, with you already doing this, you said, for 5 years almost. Did you
Exactly.
prefer a certain because there was different versions of Boo. So was there
Right.
one that you
Right.
preferred to do over the other?
Well, the cliche answer is the one they're paying me for. But the high pitched one is easiest, the
Yeah.
Fat Boo.
Yeah.
And I didn't do Super Boo. I did Fat Boo, Kid Boo, and Evil Boo.
Right.
I still do them whenever they show up, thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, the high pitched one's the easiest.
Uh-huh.
And the fight scenes are the hardest
Okay.
for all characters. I mean, that's just a general
Right.
note. Doing the fight scenes as Kid Boo, I got to do that last
Oh, really?
in a recording session, and then and I'm pretty much done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, trying to stay at that high pitched voice for a long period of time, and with fight scenes, you're screaming, so yeah, I can understand that would be, it's taking everything out of you.
It's a chore.
Yeah.
To keep that voice way high pitched and push all the air out.
Right.
To emote, to sound like you're fighting.
Right.
To sound like you're punching, kicking, blasting things. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's a chore, but again, for me, thankfully, I've been doing it for a while, so it just kind of came second nature for me on that bit.
Right. Well, and the cool thing is Boo became a normal character in the show, just like almost everybody else that Goku has faced. They end up being one of his friends in the end, So you've been there for, the Beerus series and everything else as well. So it turned out to be a really cool deal because you're able to be a reoccurring character.
It's wild. I had no clue. Again, I didn't know anything about Dragon Ball,
right.
Dragon Ball Z. I obviously could have found out.
Yeah.
But to that effect, it wasn't as easy as it is now, because the internet wasn't as easily available, and didn't have as much stuff on it.
Yeah.
So you really had to go to the bookstores. You had to be into it, or you had to send away for those mangas and find out that information, or get those videotapes and watch them dubbed or watch them subbed.
Yeah.
To find out what was going on, and I didn't have that. I didn't have that even knowledge to do that, to be honest, even if I had the resources to do it.
Right.
But I've been after when he died the first time, in the series, or morphed and went on to be Super Boo, and that wasn't me, I thought, oh, well, that was fun.
Right. Yeah.
I guess I'll go into the next one.
Yeah.
And then that summer, they called me for a video game.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, well, okay, it's a video game.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then every year I get called for a video game. And, you know, of course, it's anime. So, of course, he didn't die.
Yep.
Thankfully for me.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well,
yeah, I'm super lucky.
That's cool. You know, in going back to something you said just a minute ago, you know, you had to, anime was very hard to get a hold of. I remember one of the first ones that I really got into was Full Metal Alchemist. And they didn't have the box sets. You had to buy one disc at a time. And the only place I could find it was at this used store that I went to. And so I would buy them as they would get them. And, you know, now I'm sitting here and my son's like, oh, Dad, you should watch My Hero with me. And I'm like, I'll wait till the dubs come out, you know. And he's like, why? You know, and the thing is we're spoiled now so much because of the internet and being able to have this right at our fingertips. You know? I mean, I think it was 2 weeks after the first episode aired that now, you know, they have the dubs out. So, I mean, we're very much spoiled.
No kidding. I mean, it took us probably a month, sometimes two, to complete one episode.
Right.
And that was after we got it from Japan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that took a while.
Right. And how long was it out in Japan before you got it?
I believe, if I remember right, in 96, they started putting it out from Funimation.
Okay.
I believe it was 95 that they were doing it in Vancouver first.
Oh, okay.
As far as an English dub. Right. And I was talking to Brian Drummond recently, the original Vegeta, and he was talking about the fact that, you know, at one point it became too expensive to continue to do it in Vancouver. And so it was easier to just keep doing it in Texas, or to do it all in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
It's crazy how many different, you know, I've talked to quite a few different voice actors and stuff, and everybody's right there around Texas, you know, where Funimation is and everything. And for some reason, before I started talking to everybody, I just thought that they were off in some faraway place, you know, but it's actually, it's right. Funimation is in Texas, and that's where they do the all of the dubbing and stuff. So that's really cool.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And it's not as random as you might think if you're familiar with the fact that they did Dallas, the television show here in town. You know, after that, there were a lot of tax breaks and incentives.
Right.
For a while, that no longer exists, and that's why a lot of people aren't in Texas anymore.
Right.
But at the time, you know, I mean, they were bringing commercials to town, big commercials.
Yeah.
They were starting to do some films, you know, and so there was an industry. Voiceover guys for commercials were big here in Dallas. So, you know, it wasn't like all of us, somebody in Bunkie, Louisiana, just decided they were going to import Dragon Ball Z and redo it. You know, it wasn't that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there was a method.
Yes.
Method to it. And there was a logical origin story, should I say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I being from Louisiana, this was the closest, easiest place for me to move and pursue my career of acting.
Right.
Fortunately, it worked out. I was in the right place, the right time.
Seems to have worked out pretty good.
Fortunately, I ain't complaining.
So, what would you say is the funniest thing that's happened while you've been recording?
While I've been recording, man, you know, I don't get to do too much crazy stuff. I don't remember anything being too wild
Yeah.
or like super memorable for me. I usually just get in and get out
Gotcha.
and knock it out. And sort of, for a while they were doing things called joke bombs
Uh-huh.
or voiceover bombs, whatever. And
Right.
some people, while they were recording, they would leave in an outtake or do an extra take of a line and leave it in for the scene partner to come in later.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and they did that to me several times, and I just wasn't paying attention. I was just like, all right, I'm waiting for my beeps. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for my beep. And that's the other thing too, that there's beeps on top of it when it's starting.
Right.
And I'm listening for the beeps ready for my cue.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying. But yeah, that's probably the wildest thing for me.
Yeah.
I eat in D's booth when I'm doing Boo.
Yeah.
So like when he's
I mean, that
eating,
makes sense.
it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I take the excuse now. All right, I go for it. Like, oh sweet, yeah, I brought candy today, guys. I'm good. No, I'm doing method acting.
Yeah.
No special effects needed.
Well, wasn't there like a short or something that they did with Boo, and he was like trying different candies?
I did those. Yes,
You did those. Okay.
I did those on my own, and I got in trouble for them.
Oh no.
Yes, they were unauthorized.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
doing them for self promotion,
Yeah.
and then someone else within the company, whom I will keep their name out of it. They got caught doing something that was ill representative of
Oh,
of the company and the franchise,
gotcha.
and then they what about it me,
They threw you under the
and I was
bus.
just yeah, I was just reviewing candy to get some likes and get some followers,
Yeah.
and this person was on Twitch and was using their voice to was using their voice as they normally would. Wasn't
Right.
really a big deal until they said something stupid
Gotcha.
and somebody got bent out of shape and reported them, and then so I
Yeah.
reluctantly but respectfully stopped doing them, but I ain't pulling them off.
So do you keep
It's
up
my
with
voice, I own it.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
Anyway,
you've got
right.
it's yours. I mean, what
At
are
the
you
end
gonna
of the
do? They're gonna
day,
tell you
I
no.
could continue to do it. They might not call me anymore,
Yeah.
but there's the deal.
Yeah.
At the time, at this point, it served its purpose.
Yeah.
I fully anticipated. Well, I tell you what, I didn't anticipate it. I hoped it was going to happen because it had served its purpose.
Right.
If it had gotten that attention, it
Yeah.
didn't get the attention the way that I wanted it to. Of
Right.
course, that's how those things go. But nevertheless, I weathered the storm, and I'm still here.
Right. Right. Yeah. So you say that you wanted to be an actor. Did you have any aspirations to do voice acting early on, or was it something that just kind of came in the midst of doing acting in other avenues?
Well, growing up, I was, of course, a huge fan of Warner Brothers cartoons, Bugs
Yeah.
Bunny,
Uh-huh.
Scooby Doo, and all that.
Yep.
And as you heard, I imitated what I
Right.
saw on TV.
Yeah.
I can imitate a lot of other cartoons as well. But back then there was just a handful of guys doing it,
Right.
and they were all in Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all actors, right?
Yeah.
The idea of being a voice actor, that has just developed in the past 5 to 10 years, maybe 10 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a form of acting, doing voiceovers,
Yeah.
right? But
Yep.
and so voice acting was never really a thing to aspire to do.
Right.
Of course, I did think in my mind the dream was to do cartoons, was to, do voices on cartoons. Now that was a dream.
Yeah.
But that was just like a part of being an actor. That was something else you could do as an actor.
Right.
How to get into it, anyone's guess.
Yeah.
We're still, like I was talking about, Dallas being such a good voiceover market at one point. It still is.
Right. Yes.
For commercials, right?
Uh-huh.
But at one point, there was, like 2 or 3 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Call John Golden. They just called this guy.
Right.
There's no auditions, unless someone didn't know, or they just wanted to hear some new people or get some more, options.
Yeah.
Or the client wasn't aware.
Right.
But for the most part, commercial comes up, call John. Yeah. Or you don't even have to call him. John wakes up, he goes into the studio back in the day, and this is what John's doing today. Or, he'd get, hey, tomorrow you're going into the studio for so many hours. And he goes in and he does a Chevrolet commercial. He does Bud Light. He does the local news bumper, et cetera, et cetera. It was just one guy. So to your question, it took me 5 minutes. Yeah, I did want to do cartoons, but I didn't know dubbing wasn't an avenue.
Right.
When I started out.
Right.
So that was definitely not on my radar that way.
Yeah. So I actually had Townsend Coleman on the show a few months back. Okay. And one thing that he told me, he did like the voiceover stuff for like NBC and for CBS.
Yes.
And he was telling me he had it, set up at his house to where he could be ready in like 5 minutes time to be able to record whatever they needed. So, going back to what you were saying, they had that one set of guys that they would go to, and, they'd be like, hey, I need you to record this in the next 5 minutes for me and have it, shipped over. And they had the ability to do it right there in their home. That's a lot more prevalent, now, I'm guessing, because internet's a lot better than it was, even back then when he was doing that. But yeah, right. Going with what you said there. Yeah. They just had certain people. They're like, hey, do this.
Right. And exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you got those guys that you don't even have to wait till they get to the studio.
Yep.
They've got this data because they're so good. They were on the cutting edge of that technology. They had the secure connections and the great sound equipment and soundproofing and microphones and interfaces and all that stuff that kids these days, call them kids, they just go and get it, order it from Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
can do it in the living room with their screaming brothers and sisters and it still sound good. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa.
I do make my kids go in the house when I do this. I do this in my garage with a USB microphone from Amazon. So yes, I am
exaggerating. I am exaggerating to be fair, but it's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
And to do self auditions these days.
Right. Yeah.
There are still a lot of guidelines that I think are a little bit nitpicky, but the fact that we can actually do most of them with minimal effort is amazing to me.
Well, the fact that we're able to do this interview,
to do it. Come on, right? Go on. That's it.
I mean, if I didn't have the Zoom capability like we're using right here, I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't be having all these cool conversations that I've been having. Technology has made it amazing for somebody even like me to be able to just go buy a microphone and have a conversation.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I love technology, especially when it works.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I want to talk about another thing that you brought up a few minutes ago, and that's Barney.
Yes, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, you did this from, it was 97 to 2011, correct?
Well, two things. First, I hate to correct you.
Okay.
But for accuracy, I only perform the body talent.
Okay. Okay.
I can imitate the voice.
Yeah.
I heard it so many times, and it's kind of a thing I do. And
Right.
I much respect to Bob West. I do it for him all the time. It's one
Uh-huh.
of my good friends. But yeah, I only did the body talent, and actually from '96 to '09. '09
Okay.
was the last time I wore that costume.
Okay.
I think Carrie wore it again in 2011.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
think.
Okay.
I think he did. Yeah, but yep, I started on the road
Mm-hmm.
and did a summer of the television show on PBS
Yeah.
and did some home videos
Yeah.
and PR
Wow.
events.
Wow.
It was a great time.
So how did you get into that? Like, what happened? Did you just go and audition for this, or did somebody come to you and be like,
I
hey,
did. I had just graduated acting school,
okay.
and I didn't have an agent yet.
Uh-huh.
I was actually very poor and very homeless, hopping couches. I was sleeping on Rager's couch. And, just I was young. I was still only 20 years old.
Yeah.
Still, by myself, still trying to figure it out and be responsible and that sort of thing. And a teacher from school paged me and asked me to ride to school, come to school and talk to her.
Uh-huh.
And she told me about the audition.
Okay.
And I quickly shook my head and told her I didn't want to do it. Because you remember those comedy troupes I was
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about being canceled.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think they'd want me in it, much
Right.
less not really wanting to be in it, like that not being a goal of mine, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Much less being on my radar. I didn't have any family members or friends
Yeah.
that had ever watched it, so I had no reason to have ever watched it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this teacher, Sherry Taylor, oddly enough, I just went and spoke at the first day forum at the acting school where I graduated today. I just
cool.
did that this morning. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I got to see her and kind of talk about this earlier today. It's awesome. But yeah, she called me up to the school and she told me about the audition, and she looked at me sideways and she said, "What do you mean, no?" And, I just told her I didn't think so. I didn't think they'd want me. And she looked at me sideways again. She said, "I think you need to do this." Because
Wow.
she'd seen me. She knew I was struggling.
Yeah. Yeah.
She knew I needed something.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I just graduated acting school. And now it's time to do it. Get in there and start working. And sometimes you gotta do some gigs that you don't want.
Right.
Well, I went and auditioned the first time, and I came back. I didn't get into my car good before my pager went off.
Oh, wow.
And it was Sherry Taylor telling me they wanted to see me again. They wanted to see me back. And then she told me why. Or she told me what for. And told me that it was a world tour and it paid a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden, there was a little motivation there, right?
Yeah.
And so I went in the next time and I did the first audition, but this time we had to get in the costume. And when I got out, I was sucking wind.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 50 pounds, 120 degrees,
Right.
and I only had to dance for like 3 minutes.
Jeez.
The little intro song, the
Yeah.
theme song.
Yeah.
Maybe even 90 seconds, to be honest. I'll go back and listen to it again sometime. But boy, I was out of shape.
Yeah.
And
Let's get you in shape then.
Listen, hold that thought.
Okay.
Because when they were checking on me after the audition, they said, "Okay, we'll be in touch." And I left, and I thought, "Oh, well, so much for that audition." But that was on a Wednesday, and on Friday, my new signed agent called and told me they wanted to see me back again. And they were going to send me a video of Radio City Music Hall, and I needed to learn the first 5 minutes. And also, I had 2 weeks to lose 10 pounds and get in shape.
Oh, wow.
And that's what they told me. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't, there was no words minced. There was no political correctness of how they told me. That's what they told me.
Wow.
We'd love to see you back. Learn this, lose 10 pounds, get in shape. So, sure enough, I continued to ride my bike from our apartment to school every day for 2 weeks, eating nothing but chicken and rice. And one of the movement dance teachers at school taught me the choreography from the videotape, because I didn't understand that it was choreography.
Right.
I just thought it was, I mean, I can dance, I got rhythm.
Yeah.
I can learn dances, but this just looked like somebody being crazy.
Yeah.
And to my defense, David Joyner is a little crazy, and he was dancing a little wild. So enough respect to him. He's good talent, and he brought that energy to that character, and that's, we had to match that.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, but 2 weeks later, I went back in. I did the 5 minutes of choreography, and I got out, and I was not sucking wind. I had no problems.
Yeah.
And they asked me how I felt. I told them I felt good. They told me I looked good. I said, thank you. And then on my way, I said, and remember, I love you. and they all smiled. And the rest is history. I went out on the road about 5 months later. That was in March, and we went out in August.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. Well, and
so that's how I got it.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And it's funny because, I mean, they took you out there during the hottest month of the year is when you actually started. So it makes sense why they didn't want you sucking air whenever it's in March and, it's a little cooler when it gets to August. It'd be more than 120.
Yeah. Luckily, we were always inside.
Yeah.
Major arenas.
Right.
Sometimes, lots of times we were on top of ice rinks. Right. So
okay. Yeah.
A little chilly backstage sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, it was definitely physically demanding.
Yeah.
When the show was an hour and a half, there were two of us. Barney made magical appearances from one side of the stage to the other in different costumes. The magic of theater. We got two performers, but also the person, the actor who had the less strenuous part in the show would be during the day doing hospital visits, the children's hospitals.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
We'd get up probably about 4 a.m. Go to the TV station, do a little, presser, a little promotion for the show.
Yeah.
And then go to the hospital and do a sing-along downstairs in the lobby for all the kids that could come downstairs. Yeah. And then we would go upstairs to all the rooms to visit any kid that wanted to have a visit, do a picture. Yeah. And that was eye-opening. You know what I mean? That told the punk kid who didn't want to do it why he needed to do it. Right. Besides the money and the experience and, not being homeless, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
There are some kids that wouldn't leave those rooms that I went into.
Yeah.
This was their only bright spot.
Yeah.
So that was pretty humbling.
Right.
But wow. I've taken it with me to not take things for granted.
Yeah.
To take advantage of all opportunities to the fullest.
Yeah.
And I ain't perfect. I could always do do more and do better, but it's not because I don't have that perspective, right?
Yeah. So you actually set up at you do cons, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. How many of those have you done?
Oh my goodness.
A lot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. I
How long have
started
you
in
been doing them?
2000.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, the first one I did was in 2002
Okay.
when Dragon Ball Z jumped off and they had the score, uh, the game, the card game,
Okay.
right? The original one. And Score Entertainment, the people who made the cards in the game, they took an original version of the Humvee,
Uh-huh.
the Hummer, and they skinned it. This before you skin cars, regularly, but they put characters on it. They put the Dragon Ball Z logo on it,
Mm-hmm.
and they hired some people at one time. It was Sonny Strait, even voice of Krillin.
Yeah.
He drove it around,
Oh,
but
wow.
eventually Adam Sheehan was the full-time driver, and he would drive it from city to city.
Uh-huh.
And each weekend, they would fly out to different voice actors
Uh-huh.
to the place. And that was the first time I realized, dude, people watch this and
Oh, yeah.
like it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. So, and then I got married.
Uh-huh.
That year we moved to Panama City for a minute, came back, had children, and I raised children until, well, I'm still raising them, but until about 2015.
Yeah.
They were pretty hands-on.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2015 came along, and they were needing dad less and less. And so I started trying to figure out what I was going to do. And Chris Rager was out still doing some little events here and there.
Yeah.
And I found one that was in my hometown, Shreveport.
Okay.
And so I hooked back up with that in 2015. And when I did, they were asking where Mr. Satan was. And I went home and I said, dude, Chris, I did this thing. Everybody was asking, where's Mr. Satan? So me and you need to get out here together. And we've been doing it together since 2016.
That's cool.
So
that's really cool.
That's 8 years this year.
Yeah.
And we've been averaging 12 to 18 a year.
Wow.
In those 8 years. So yeah.
That's busy.
Right? I just thought of that. Thanks. I didn't think of that number until right now, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's crazy. Wacky. I'm gonna send Chris a text message, see if he realizes that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been fortunate, man. It's wild because if I thought people liked us back in 2002, it's even wackier, and I've done more.
Oh yeah.
So, well, I'm so fortunate. Yeah.
I've done a few because I do them for the podcast, and I do some for. I'm also I work for a comic book company as well on the side,
sweet.
And so we've been guests at a few, and we just got back from one. It was a few weeks ago. We went to Matrotham Con in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay,
and
nice.
I was beat by the time I got home. It was a 3-day con. And so, trying to keep that energy up all day when you have people coming and talking to you and everything, it takes it out of you. And I didn't realize how much until I was doing the 10-hour drive back home, and it was, man, I was beat. So yeah, doing 12 to 18 a year, I can imagine that gets pretty exhausting.
Well, I mean, it does, but I'm also, my perspective is from the road.
Yeah.
The Barney tour, right?
Yeah.
We were doing 8 shows a week.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was eating 4 meals a day.
Oh.
And there's no calling in.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no calling in sick.
Right.
You do it. They may give you one.
Yeah.
2, if it's legit. You
right.
start making it a habit.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, you get called into the office and you got two choices: aisle or window. And that's your plane ticket home.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
You don't
That's
want that.
your last choice.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, for some people, they just can't do it. And I get that. That's not you. It doesn't negate who you are or make you any less of a person, but that's my habit. That's how I'm wired. So
well, you got used to
doors
it. Doors
open, I'm there.
Yeah.
I got conditioned, but again, hospital visits every city.
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah.
Make your wishes.
Right.
At one point before John Cena, it was Barney, and that is fact.
Right. Wow.
Barney was everybody wanted to make a wish from Barney, and I was a part of a lot of them, and they are gutting, but also so inspirational at the same time. And so when you've got people coming to you at conventions, telling you how awesome you are and how much they love you and how much you changed their life and how much you meant to them as a child, and then for me, I think about those people are still here and still enjoying it, still paying me respect. So I'm gonna give them respect while they're here. For them and for the others who can't for whatever reason. Yeah. So that's just me.
It puts things in perspective, definitely. Whenever you
no doubt
doing that, I couldn't imagine, doing that, and so it makes you think and it makes you appreciate what you have.
I can tell you, it's a good thing I had a costume on.
Yeah,
and that is no joke.
Right.
Because I just thought, oh my, what do I do?
Right.
Because not only am I here, but I gotta make Barney do Barney.
Yep.
Right. And Barney's got a giant smile on his face.
Right.
Always.
Yeah.
So
when it comes to the voice and doing things like that, how does that work? Because I'm sure the kids want to ask you questions when you're dressed as Barney. How does that work?
He's resting his voice for the show.
Yeah.
The kids are, most of the time, they're smart enough.
Yeah.
They hear it's not coming from inside. They hear it's coming from the guy behind them.
Right. Right.
And they get distracted. We tried it a few times in the early beginning, actually. But there was a guy on the road with us who was, his job was just in case the digital audio tape that we used for the show, just in case that failed, he would be there to either pick up or just make an announcement that we'll be back in a minute or whatever.
Gotcha.
Well, they eventually decided to take him to some hospitals and see if that worked. And no, those kids were looking right around me, looking at him like, whoa, why do I hear Barney behind Barney?
Right.
And so from then on, it was, no, they did Bob West, like the Bob West, the voice.
Yeah.
I did a couple of Make-A-Wishes where it was just like, no, she wants the voice.
Right.
Do the voice.
Yeah.
And she was just as happy. You know what I mean? She knew what was up, but she wanted to hear it.
Right. Right.
So that's what we did. You know what I mean? Of course.
Yeah.
But that otherwise Barney's got to rest his voice for the show tonight. But he loves you, and here's that Polaroid.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how it happened. Yeah. Yeah. The 21-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Who didn't want to do it, who wanted to stay at home and do his little Saturday Night Live sketches. Was now,
So
changing.
So doing the cons and stuff.
What
would you say is probably, because I've been to quite a few now, and you hear people say some very strange things when you're at these. What is the weirdest thing that you've ever been asked?
Oh my gosh. That I've ever been asked.
Yes.
Oh my, I mean, I don't even know if I can think about just one.
Oh,
And I can't think of them specifically, to be honest, because I usually try to block it out because
right.
sometimes it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you know, so doing the Barney thing.
Yeah.
So some kids needed Barney for some pretty traumatic situations,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Right.
Right? That's
Yep.
and so that's overwhelming to hear sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, you have plenty of people on all levels of health, both physically and mentally,
Yep.
and so sometimes people will come up and they'll just start saying all of it, but
Right.
having nothing to do with what you're doing
Yep.
or or the show that you're on or why you're in town
Yeah.
or anything, and you gonna hear the whole story. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
So that, and sometimes they're just so honest.
Hmm.
Sometimes people, they can be extra honest for one reason or another,
Right.
and sometimes these kids are like, "Hey, so why didn't you do this? Why was this? I didn't like this. I thought you should have done this."
Yeah.
Like, you realize they just hire me to do voices. I don't
Right.
write any of this.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't get to pick what I
but
say.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm sorry I don't have a better
Oh, no, you're good,
soundbite
man.
for you, but I'll think of that. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're good. So, do you have any hobbies?
Yes,
All right.
kind of. Yes and no. I have three children, so
Okay.
hobbies are few and far between for me.
Right.
They're my hobbies, if you can call that. You call them hobbies. They're full-time responsibility.
Well, they're expensive.
But yeah, come on. And I love music.
Yeah.
I'm in a Beastie Boys tribute band.
Oh, cool.
I do MCA's part.
Uh-huh.
I'm also working on a new hip hop, just overall hip hop tribute cover band called Regulators. I'm
Cool.
going to do
Cool.
some vocals and co-produce, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say music is my hobby. If I have spare time,
Uh-huh.
then it's that or wrestling.
Yeah. All
But
right.
as things go, like music has kind of provided me with some income, and uh, part of that industry, I've gotten into the wrestling industry as well, even
Yeah.
being even from being a fan. So that it's wild. My hobbies tend to turn into uh, careers,
Yeah.
which I don't mind.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
So we're kind of coming up close to a close here, and I've just got a few more questions for you
Okay.
before I get you off of here. Do you have anything coming up that maybe you want to talk about before I get you off here?
Let's see, what do we have going on? We got some conventions coming up. Actually, this weekend I'm doing my first out of state wrestling appearance.
Oh, cool.
I'm doing guy Eric Nelson, doing a birthday at champions thing with him. A lot of wrestlers are going to be there. Some
Yeah.
old school guys doing a little event there, little signing. They're going to do some wrestling as well, and I think I might be doing some commentary,
Okay.
as well as maybe managing someone, but
Nice.
hadn't really ironed out all those details yet. But yeah, that, and again the Regulators and
Yeah.
rhyming and stealing, and I'm always auditioning for stuff, and I fortunately going to Crunchyroll whenever they call me. They call me regularly enough where I at least die on most things that they produce in the background, or say yes sir, or
Yeah.
chatter in the background. You'll hear me spread around. I'm pretty lucky.
And if people want to follow you, how can they do that?
If you really want to, No, I'm kidding. You can find me on Instagram is Original Boo.
All right.
That's all lowercase, and that's BUU.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, if you do that, Josh Martin Voice. And you can find me as Josh Martin on Facebook if you're old enough.
Man, I'm part of that OG crowd when it comes to Facebook. So.
See, there you go. Well, then you'll use that. You'll use that. Some of these kids are like, oh, okay. You're old.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
My kids tell me that all the time.
Were you born in the 1900s?
Oh, yeah.
Why, I oughta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you 1900s. I'll show you how we did it in the 1900s. I'm kidding. These are jokes, guys. This is why we were canceled in the comedy troops, like I said earlier.
Hey, this is just part of being a dad, too, you know, what you're saying now. So
you have to, right? You have to play that role. You have to give them that guidance,
right? Whether
they appreciate it now or not.
Right.
They'll figure it out.
Oh, definitely.
All in good time.
Oh, yeah.
The sooner, the better. Okay.
That's right.
Right.
All right, man. Do you have any final thoughts before I get you off of here?
Listen, thank you so much for this conversation. I had a good time.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody listening and supporting you and supporting me and Dragon Ball Z and all the other things we do. Awesome. And be good to yourselves. Be good to each other because we're all we got.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, it has been wonderful talking to you. I will talk to you a few more minutes after we end this recording, but we're going to say goodbye to the folks for now. And thank you again for being on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
See ya.
Wrestling fans, Diamond State Wrestling returns to the Diamond Dome on Saturday, June 15th with exciting professional wrestling action. The Diamond Dome is located beside the Next Level Soccer Center. Catch the stars of Diamond State Wrestling like Pineapple Jack, Classically Violent William J. Blackwell, and the Diamond State Heavyweight Champion, the Ruthless King, Alexander Gold. Ticket prices start at $15. You can get information and purchase tickets at DiamondStateWrestling.com.
Fascinating People, Fascinating Places returns. I talked to Eric Maddox, the man responsible for capturing Saddam Hussein, attorney Jason Wright, whose career was rocked when he was tasked with defending September 11th mastermind, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. I speak with experts about human trafficking, the death of Princess Diana, the legacy of Scott of Antarctica. I talk with a TV celebrity who abandoned stardom for the simple life, chat with astronaut Jim Weatherby, and much, much more. Please subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the action.
Do you have class action lawsuits against you? Do you want to sue someone? Are you an American? Do you want to be an American? Are you a Power Ranger? Do you want to have a legal battle with Hasbro? Do you have legal discussions with Disney? Don't call me. Call our lawyer at the Zero to Hero hotline, 555-553-5153. I forgot the number already, but call that number if you have any questions for the Zero to Hero lawyer. Muy gusto, Espanol. We're not your average family lawyer. Contact the law offices of Zero to Hero, and Zero to Hero.
Hey listeners, I'm glad you're enjoying what you're listening to. I'm Billy from Zero to Hero Podcast. I'll always be joined by Jim, and me and him are the Bulk and Skull Podcasting. If you definitely like jumping down rabbit holes from week to week of anything that ranging from the old school Power Rangers 90s-esque nostalgia, or we could even be talking about moon landings. So I know you're interested, so definitely after the show, come check us out. Zero to Hero Podcast.
All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Josh Martin. He was really cool to talk with, and I really appreciate him being on the show. Thank you, Josh, for taking time out of your schedule to come on here and talk with me. And I can't wait to have you back on again so we can talk about more cool stuff. So next week, my episode will be with the one and only Jeremy Hahn. He is a comic book artist out of the Missouri area who's done stuff with DC and Image and Marvel and all kinds of other stuff. I got to talk to him. Did some pretty in-depth talking, so I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. He was a ton of fun as well. So make sure that you come back and listen to that one next Monday. But while you're waiting on a new episode of If You Give a Dad a Podcast to drop, make sure that you go and listen to my podcast networks. Check them out. They've got all kinds of different shows there as well. It is the OIW Podcast Network, the Zio to Hero Podcast Network, and the Avenue Podcast Network. Like I said, they have great stuff there, so make sure that you go and check all of them out as well. Still working on getting the side ups for you guys to get merch. If you do want a shirt, though, or a hat or anything like that, just hit me up. Send me a message, send me an email, whatever. Tell me the size that you need and where to ship it to, and we will get it out to you. So at the end of every single one of my episodes, you hear a song. When I say I love you at the end, a song starts. That's D-Cure. D-Cure created that for me about a year and a half ago, and he's amazing. If you like the way that sounds, make sure that you hit him up and listen to some of the other great music that he has produced as well. He's all the time coming out with new original content. He's also on TikTok, makes some really funny videos on there as well. So go and hit him up. I will have his website linked in my show notes. Some really cool stuff is happening with Original Geek. As I'm recording this, they are at Saline County Expo, and they actually got me another guest to be on the show, so thank you guys for doing that. I'm excited for more stuff that's going to be happening. The next one that we're going to be going to is in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and that is Nerds Assemble Con. We're guests there. So if you're in the area, make sure that you come out and say hi to us. We'll be there July 27th and 28th. More great stuff is going to be happening. Some more Beyond the Panels episodes are going to be happening here soon. A special one is actually going to be recorded here in the next week or so. So be checking back for that one to come out. I'm really excited about what's going on with them and all the live events that we are doing and the podcast that we're doing over there. I will have all of Original Geek stuff in my show notes. So if you want to follow Beyond the Panels, if you want to go follow the newsletter for Original Geek, any of that stuff, it is on there. So make sure that you go and follow that. I also have a few branches of my podcast that have expanded, and I want to give a shout out to them. That is, If You Give a Dad a Cosplay and If You Give a Dad a YouTube channel. Those are ran by two of my really good friends from Three Ranger Bro Studios that I met through Zio to Hero Network. And that is Ty Tiger, who runs the YouTube channel, and then there is Cosplay Dude 637, who runs the cosplay channel. Go and check out their stuff. They've got some really good content. It's informative stuff that help you to, further yourself if you want to make YouTube videos or if you want to do a cosplay. They help with all of this. They give you the tips and tricks to be able to make it easier for you to be able to do that. So you hear me talking about social media, you hear me talking about emails, and you're like, well, how do I reach out to you? Where do I go? Well, when it comes to social media, wherever it is you're wanting to follow me on, just go and look me up. If You Give a Dad a Podcast in the search bar, I should be on there. You can also Google me. I am the first 10 to 15 results that you will find there as well. And then also, I've made it a little easier in my show notes. I have my link tree. If you want to go on there, you can find everywhere, not only where you can find the podcast, but everywhere you can find me on social media to follow as well. Also, my email address is giveadadapodcast@gmail.com. It is also in my link tree. Send me a line if you have a suggestion for the show, or if you just want to tell me, hey, I like your show. You can do that. Send me a line on there, and I'd be more than happy to talk back and forth with you on there as well. As you're listening to this, make sure that you go out there and do me a favor, rate and review this podcast. Tell me what you think of it, whether you like it, whether you don't. The more people that do that, the more likely I am to be recommended to somebody else, and I love to see this podcast grow. I have noticed a big jump in growth over the last few months, and I appreciate everyone who comes here and listens to the show. As I say at the beginning, whether this is your first time listening or if you've been listening for a very long time, I appreciate each and every one of you for being here and listening to the show. Also, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Hit the notification bell wherever it is that you're listening. That way you're notified when a new episode of iGadapt drops. So we've come to the end of another episode of If You Give a Dad a Podcast, and it is time for Billy's favorite part of the episode, and that is Dad Joke of the Week. So when a ship or a boat gets sick, where do they go? The boat dog.
Jared's dad joke of the week, more like Jared's lame duck of the week. Oh my God, this is so bad to listen to.
All right. I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. I will see you next time. Bye.
Room rounded, but I got a podcast on. He calls us beautiful people, then tells us who we have on. The best part of my day, though we're blocked out in my pods. Tell my friends all about it so that they follow along. And the host is kinda nerdy, but guess what I am as well. I don't feel so alone, and I began walking out of my shell. Heard a story, I need a connection I haven't felt. I'll be looking for the next one, till then farewell. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. Listen closely, download and tune in remotely. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. And listen closely, download and tune in remotely.
This podcast is part of the OIW Podcasting Network.
Give a Dad a Podcast.